Welcome to Today in Vilcabamba. I'm Carlos Favara, and this is the fourth interview of Cal Sellers, a student of chiropractic who's visiting Vilcabamba and has truly enlightened me. Cal, welcome. Please tell us about how our thoughts affect our state of our digestion.
Sure, everything. Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, what I would like to start with is talking about some discoveries that have been made recently about what happens in our bodies when we think a thought or have a feeling. What we know, what we have known for a long time, is that the way that we actually have a thought or experience a feeling actually happens not just by electrical conduction in our brain, but also by chemicals. And these chemicals are called neuropeptides or neurotransmitters. And they have a little signature. They're built very special and very specific for that thought or that emotion. And what they will do is jump from place to place inside our brains and allow us to feel that experience or think that thought. And what we found out more recently is that not only does our brain receive those chemicals, but every single cell of our body, every cell in our blood, every cell in our immune system, every cell in the entire body, and the cell, in case some of our viewers are not sure what a cell comprises, cells are tiny little units that build everything that we are.
There's a couple of trillion in our about three. How many trillion in our bodies?
The latest figure I heard is about 40 quadrillion, and I don't even know how big that number is, but it's many. I think that's about 4,000 trillion, I think is what that is. And so it's quite a large number of those, and every single one of those, in every place, whether it's in the fluid in our body, or making up our cells, or our bones, or our muscles, or our nerves, every one of those has a receptor on it for those neuropeptides that are produced in our brains. Now, what that means is every part of your body is listening to what you're thinking and to what you're feeling. Now, some of that probably is just old news to some people who are just good observers of nature. They didn't need someone to spend millions of dollars studying it to discover it. They already know that when they think a thought or have a feeling, it affects how their whole body feels. And many people just know that intuitively. And yet now we have the science to show that that is a very strong, factual relationship that is unavoidable. Now here's what we've discovered. In addition to that, not only do all of our cells listen to what we think, they respond according to what that thought is. So if it's a happy thought, our cells function a little bit better. They function a little more optimistically. They can do more and feel better and be healthier.
Cal, the neuropeptides, how many varieties do they come in?
Well, there are basic varieties that all of them are built off of. And we have not actually found all of them. We know that there are some communications going on that we haven't tracked down yet. So we don't actually know how many there are, but the structure of each neuropeptide, even within a certain class where they're all very similar, can be changed just slightly so that a very specific
message
thought,
goes to the cell.
That's right, a very specific message goes to every
Ballpark,
cell.
how many neuropeptides might there be?
Well, I think if you just imagine how many different kinds of thoughts you can have and emotions you can have, you're going to have that many different neuropeptides, at least in the smallest ways. They'll be subtly different. In the different families of neuropeptides, I think there are 20 different families, thereabouts. It's been a while since I've looked, and when I looked last at how many different families there were, I found that different sources had different answers to that, and I think it's because we're still discovering neuropeptides in the human body, and we don't really know how many there are.
Intuitively, I would just want to tell you that it seems almost as if neuropeptides were like words. They're symbols for thoughts, for things, for ideas, for emotions, for in general. So basically, it's a different kind of neuropeptide communicates to the cell, from the brain to the cell by neuropeptides, and there's different kinds, so they're like words.
Very much so. We get, and not just a word, but a word that has a whole message attached to
A
it.
sentence.
Yeah, it really is a sentence or a paragraph.
paragraph.
It's something that communicates not
To-
just one idea, but the whole experience. The essence is really captured in the way that neuropeptide is
The state
created.
of mind the person holds.
Absolutely. And so, as you might imagine, your cells can respond in a lot of different ways based on what you're thinking. So it's no longer just somebody saying, hey, I figured out that if I thought different thoughts, I felt differently. Now we have the science to prove absolutely that controls your body more precisely than any other chemical we ever take into our bodies. It's absolutely king. What we think about, what we feel, those things control our health. And so one of the things that we definitely want to consider is taking charge a little bit of what we think and how we feel. And some people sort of feel like their feelings and their thoughts just fall on them out of heaven, and that's all they can do is think those things. But that's not really true. We actually make a lot of different choices all the time, generally by force of habit. And in fact, it wouldn't be that big a deal to make a different choice. We just would have to learn that skill. And it's a skill that everybody has, but most people have forgotten. And so if we just go to work on that, we'll find out that we can do more than we think we can. And so one of the things that thinking different thoughts brings up in my mind is a conversation I had since I've been here in Vilcabamba with some friends who were discussing with me the subject of different things we might smell and how it would affect us. And one of the subjects that came up is the fact that we can smell fear. And that was a bit of a shock to those listening. And yet, as I talked about it, they sort of opened up to the idea. What happens is when we have fear, that strong sense of we're in big trouble, we need to run away, or something is overwhelming and it's out of control, and it may even be a small thing, but we have that emotion of fear, our body actually emits an odor that is a very unpleasant odor and very pervasive. It is the most pervasive smell that I know of, and when a person learns to smell it, they'll be shocked at how strong it is, how real it is, and how often they might smell it among humans and
Cal-
even animals.
Cal, what do you mean by pervasive? That's